After the finale of Ahsoka and the big reveal of the Mortis statues, I'm more convinced than ever that it's Abeloth that is calling to Baylan. I can't believe it, but Dave is actually doing it. He's bringing in one of the coolest and craziest things from Star Wars Legends into canon. But I've also seen a lot of people pretty confused as to what the reveal in Episode 8 even really means. So let's dive deep and talk about what's actually happened to Baylan throughout the course of Season 1 of Ahsoka. Okay, so first off, it's important to remember that Baylan mentions Peridea before any other character. All the way back in Episode 2, when he finds Seagos and the place where he can put the star map, remember that Baylan asks Morgan about the work on Seagos, noting that this was not created by the Jedi. Morgan says that it was made by an ancient people from a faraway galaxy, and then Baylan responds, Peridea? That's nuts. That's a fairy tale. I think Baylan maybe suspected this was already the answer he was looking for. It's even possible he was already feeling the calling to him. And later in that same episode, Shin asks what they will find in Peridea. And her master answers her, for some, war, for others, a new beginning, and for us, power greater than you've ever dreamed of. Now, fast forward to Episode 6, and Baylan is talking about the cycle of light and dark and the inevitability of it all. He says that he seeks the beginning. He seeks the power to end it. Now, I want to stop for a second and talk about the story of Genesis and Adam and Eve, but this is important, and stick with me because I think you'll get where I'm going in a minute. In the story of Genesis, Adam and Eve eat of the tree of knowledge, something that was forbidden. And when they do this, they gain a bunch of knowledge, including self-awareness. But this is the first sin, and this is the fall of humanity from grace. They get kicked out of Eden after this. And although we don't know for sure, I think of the story of Abeloth's fall in Star Wars Legends as a fairy tale that was likely told to young Jedi, similar to the way that the story of Adam and Eve was told to a lot of us as young people. I mean, the ideas are similar, right? Seeking knowledge, seeking things that are forbidden for mortals. And although we don't exactly know what the canon version of this story will be, judging by how Dave adapts other legend things, I think it's going to be pretty similar to the old EU version. And the old EU version of the story of Abeloth has to do with the Mortis Gods. The Mortis Gods, the father, the son, and the daughter resided on a planet that was essentially paradise. And on this planet of paradise, there were two cosmic features on the world. One was the fountain of power, which actually the sun emerges from, and the other is the pool of knowledge, which the daughter emerges from. And the son and the daughter, being more or less manifestations of the dark side and the light side, would constantly be in conflict with each other. And it was the father's job to try to keep the peace, to keep the balance between the light side and the dark side, his children. Then one day, this random lady showed up, and she was super cool. This lady was able to help the father keep the balance. She helped quell the fighting between the son and the daughter, and was even able to take the son's dark side energy and use it for constructive purposes. He was like creating things with his force lightning within the grove. She became known as the mother and was a central fixture within this cosmic entity family. But she was mortal, and the ones were not. So the mother aged, because again, she's mortal, but the Mortis Gods, or the ones, did not age. The son and the daughter pleaded with the father to allow this mortal woman to drink from the fountain of power and to bathe in the pool of knowledge, giving her immortality, because they didn't want to lose her. And this woman was terrified of being abandoned and being alone. And as the father, the son, and the daughter argued about this vociferously, the mother snuck behind their back, drank from the fountain of power, and swam in the pool of knowledge. And when she emerged, she was transformed. But not in the way she had hoped, and not in the way that the son and the daughter had hoped. She was now Abeloth, a completely corrupted dark side goddess. And she immediately began to try to corrupt the son and the daughter. And the father, again, one of the ones, the leader of the Mortis Gods, was so terrified of Abeloth that he took his children and left, abandoning Abeloth to this planet and making her worst fear come true, being abandoned and alone. And so I do believe a version of that story is the fairy tale that was told to a young Baylan to essentially get him to understand why the Force is out of balance. And it feels a lot like original sin and being kicked out of Eden and, you know, that story of Adam and Eve. And given the disposition of Baylan and how he views the Jedi as naive, I believe he is seeking this old story and perhaps believes that he can drink from that fountain and bathe in that pool and ascend and actually have the power to destroy the dark side and the light side and what's going on with the Sith and the Jedi and this inevitable cycle that he continues to refer to. Okay, so all of that's crazy, and then it takes us into episode 8, where we see Baylan standing on these massive sculptures or statues of the Mortis Gods. And he's standing on the arm of the father, and the father is pointing off into the distance to a mountain where there appears to be some kind of golden or glowing surface or object. And I want to show this painting here, which is of Abeloth coming out of the pool of knowledge, and that appears to be the fountain of power, that golden object there as well. And so I literally think it could be that golden object that is glimmering in the distance. I believe what is calling to Baylan is the pool of knowledge and the fountain of power, and perhaps Abeloth herself somehow enshrined or imprisoned at this place. Another subtle clue at the end of the episode has to do with Sabine feeling some kind of presence which appears to confuse her. And then she remarks that it's just shadows in the starlight. And Shadows in the Starlight apparently is a coming book in the High Republic series, and maybe there's going to be clues in that book that talk about Abeloth and this chaos goddess. But to me, the mentioning of Shadows and Starlight is really interesting because the Mother of Stars was something they referred to Abeloth as. So that is why I believe it really is Abeloth calling to Baylan. It's mind-blowing stuff. I know it's really wild and out there, but there's just no other explanation for me. It feels like the pieces are right in front of us. And the Mortis Gods, that big ancient statue thing, it just kind of proves to me that Peridea itself is likely the paradise where the ones once resided. But okay, so that's pretty crazy, but what does this actually mean? Like, what's gonna happen in the future of Star Wars? Abeloth's a pretty crazy concept. How is this gonna affect things? Well, I definitely think this is something that's gonna go down in season 2. This will be spelled out a little bit more, and there are even clues that Mortis and the newer version of the Mortis Gods, which I think is Anakin and Ahsoka, they might well be necessary now to fight back Abeloth or to keep her in prison. We do see the Morai Owl, representative of the daughter, there with Ahsoka. And it's interesting that after she sees that, she tells Sabine later on that Ezra's where he needs to be, and so are we. It seems like she realizes she was meant to be here. There's purpose in her being stranded on Peridea. And I even think that her realization of that is why Anakin smiles at her as a Force ghost at the end of episode 8. He's proud that his apprentice finally realizes what is going on. And I also believe that her being brought into the world between worlds absolutely has to do with Anakin being the father, the new Mortis Gods needing to go shut this ancient evil down. And so while I don't know how this will manifest in season 2, I think there are enough clues to show us that it was all building towards this, and this is going to be a super big deal for the second season of Ahsoka. But I kind of think it'll get resolved in that second season, at least for now, because I can't see Abeloth coming into the fold, wrecking havoc on the known galaxy, and then the sequels happening and the First Order just being this big threat. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of wondering how all of this is going to tie together just in general. Like, how can you justify the New Republic demilitarizing itself if Thrawn actually has this super big war against them years before the sequels happen? But regardless of all that, I basically just don't think you're going to get a ton of Abeloth until maybe after the sequels. Abeloth is such a cool idea and such a big thing to bring into canon, that you can have all sorts of things happen in the future. Like, one thing that happened in Legends that could connect to Ben Solo is that Jason Solo in Legends goes on this path of finding where the pool of knowledge is in the Fountain of Power. Now, he resists actually going into the pool or drinking from the fountain, but he has a vision of Darth Krayt when looking into the pool. And so even though he doesn't like fully give in to Abeloth and that desire for power and knowledge, he does see something in the pool that affects him forever and actually causes him to go way to the dark side and become a crazy powerful Sith Lord. And I think it would be crazy if we saw Luke Skywalker take a young Ben Solo into the beyond to Peridea to help rescue Ahsoka and maybe stop Abeloth. And what if Ben Solo, as a young man, looks within this pool of knowledge and has a vision that shapes his reality and sort of forces him to go to the dark side much later on? It could even be an explanation for the vision that Luke Skywalker sees when he looks at Ben Solo's future on his temple world. And although we don't know for sure what they're going to be doing with the Rey movie, I've heard a lot of rumors of them bringing Ben Solo back to life or doing something crazy with Ben Solo and Rey and the Dyad. And I think connecting that to Abeloth and some greater cosmic craziness could be a good move. I'm going to be making more videos about this and the possibilities, so look out for those. But for now, I'm pretty damn sure we're getting Abeloth.